Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest Scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. All right. I have you all here. Welcome to the call-in show. What's up, Shane? I see you there. I am doing amazing. Y'all, I started 5 minutes late today. Why did I start 5 minutes late? Because I'm over there working on stuff. I got sawdust on me and stuff like that because I'm putting some cabinets in. Actually, to be truthful, my father came down to visit me. My father realistically came down to visit me. My father don't come down to visit me often at all. But my father came down to visit me, so we actually doing a father-son project. He's super happy because, the lady at the counter said, "Are y'all brothers?" My father's only 18 years older than me, so it happens. So anyway, y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show. This is where we talk about Scrum and Agile and everything else in between. Forgive me because I switched some things up just because I had to. You see, I got my little headset on because I'm trying to make sure I can hear everything that I'm supposed to be able to hear, and everything's not going as good as expected, but that's okay. We're going to get through it. So, it's been an interesting week, right? I had a group that I'm a part of, that's a coaching group, talked about this week the topic of the word Scrum Master, the actual term Scrum Master. Some organizations not being so happy about using that term because, it's association with things that aren't so good, negative, like slavery and, master of what or whatever, just considering it to be a racist term, right? And people have their opinions about it, and it's not. I guess it's not something I just want to jump in and talk about. But it's an interesting topic because it's one of those things where I have been exposed to that for years now. I'm grabbing something, y'all, so don't get on me, right? I like these headsets more than I like those, so I'm gonna switch headsets while we are going in, but. It's one of those things where, I remember back in the day when I first got involved in Scrum, how when I first got involved in Scrum, it was '05. And so when I did, it was interesting because my initial thought was, it sounded like, officer, overseer type deal, when it comes to slavery. That kind of connection. But, did I ever think of it as being bluntly racist? No, I didn't. And I'll tell you why. Because I met Ken Schwaber. If anything, Ken Schwaber or Jeff Sutherland, or both of them together, right? I don't know the exact story behind it. Actually gave the Scrum Master their name, right? Actually gave the Scrum Master their name. So, and then me having... conversations with them, I haven't seen anything of the sorts. Now, could I say that I'm probably uniquely treated in our community? Probably so, yeah. But would I say to you that people have been bluntly problematic? No. Okay. So just so you all know, just so that I can introduce myself again, my name is Devon Morris. This is the Devon A. Morris call-in show. We talk about Agile and Scrum. If you have a question, then you are welcome to go ahead and click the link that I just threw up in the chat. That is the actual call in link where you can actually join the show to ask a question. Okay. Now, one of the things that I had started talking about prior was things like forecasting, estimation, things of that nature. But I'm going to continue on this little topic of this racism and Scrum type deal. The reason why I'm going to continue with that is because obviously it's something that I have experienced to some degree. Do I think it has a real place in Scrum? No, I don't. And last year, in 2020, we had the George Floyd thing happen. And then, there was a lot of other things that just light was brought into it. I even started a podcast where I went through about 25 episodes of talking about things, and it just became almost depressing because it was like I'm talking about the same stuff again and again and again. I prefer to take action. But the idea is that when I look at representation in this community, could I say that it's as diverse as we want it to be? No. Just put, African Americans to the side, or Africans or black people in general. I think there's 2 CSTs. There's a lot more CECs slash CTCs. But I would definitely say that is probably a bigger reflection of IT, because I've gone inside some organizations and didn't see anybody that looked like me whatsoever, right? And I remember, when I first started going to India, one of the things that I would do is encourage people in India to make sure that they represented the culture, represented themselves in Scrum. Why did I want them to do that? Because fundamentally, at the end of the day, Scrum should look like the people that, it represents, the people that are involved in it, right? In general, I guess it could look like the workforce, but I'd rather for it to represent the world and look like the world is supposed to look, right? Be a representation of what's happening around the world is what I would definitely prefer to see. So a good example is, do I think that there's enough women? No, I don't. Would I say that women seemingly have, it's the best place I can compare it to, right? If you think about if you really think about the civil rights movement, you might see a whole bunch of black men at the forefront, but none of the civil rights movement works without black women. It just flat out, it doesn't work. It flat out doesn't work, right? Without black women, because black women, they organize, they do things in ways that just is ridiculous, and it's unbelievable what they can do. And I might love to give a shout out to black women, but I've seen women of all cultures just been major organizers, be able to get things moving. Okay, and so I don't think it's one thing that kind of starts. I don't think it's a thing that starts. And think that women aren't represented, because if I look back at the beginnings of Agile, there were women involved. I mean, you might see, the Agile Manifesto doesn't look very well represented, right? It is truth, right? Okay. But if you really look at the founding of Scrum Alliance, or you're going to, Agile Alliance, and I'd rather other people talk about that, you'll always see that there's some woman at the foundation of these things, kind of pushing things forward in some kind of way. So when I think about the word Scrum Master, does it worry me? It doesn't. It isn't anything that I would think about or think was fundamentally a problem. Do I think the community has a problem in terms of diversity? I would say yes. Do I think people have been treated not so great? I would say yes. Have I experienced some of this stuff? I would say yes. But, either try to change it, because we actually have a really amazing community, right? It's kind of, I was looking at somebody, I don't know. Some of you may have experienced back in the day where you had like a little piece of paper and you put words on every piece of it. Like it folds like almost like a Pac-Man, and you just unfold pieces of it, and it has different words, different sayings and stuff like that. I saw somebody do something on YouTube, not on YouTube, but on LinkedIn. It kind of shows something like that. And it just says, stop doing Agile and being Agile, living and breathing the values and principles of the Agile Manifesto. And the thing is, truthfully, we have a community that's really, really unique. There's something about this community that's amazing, right? And the thing about this community that is so unique is most of us, well, I won't say it that way, right? There's a lot of us that get involved in this thing for the money. And rightfully so. Yeah. Be out. It's your thing. Do whatever you do, right? But you'll find that the people that probably get certifications not because of the actual, money aspect of it, but because they take pride, right, in being that or earning that, right? They tend to live and breathe the values and principles of the Agile Manifesto, not because there's accolades associated with a certification, but because they want to be deep in that community, right? Deeply involved in that community. So we really have, so do I think that Agile is one of those things that used appropriately could attack many, many things that have to do with diversity in this world? Yeah, because I don't see color in the principles. I don't see sex in the principles. I don't see many, many things in the principles, right? Do I think it will directly reflect the particular environment that it goes into? Oh, yeah. I would assume that Agile in HR probably looks more like women, right? I think about Agile in education, and I do see, a bunch of men spearheading things. But the truth is, when I see the people that's doing the work, I see, definitely way more women represented. I mean, just truthfully, right? Realistically, right? Especially when I've been involved, right? I see a nice thought here, Mr. Headley. Some of you all may have an idea who I'm talking about here, but if you don't, I work with John like, here's the deal, right? In the Agile world, I would say I became a teenager when I kind of went from, kind of State Farm to Capital One. But when I went down to San Antonio, a little company called USA, it's kind of like that's when I started to grow up. That's when I put the big boy pants on and really did some stuff that I thought was amazing. And it wasn't just about amazing. It was really about doing something that was interesting and great at the same time, even though Scrum got kicked out the building. But John is saying something here. Does it directly correlate to the amount of diversity of those leading the organizations that utilize Scrum? I would say absolutely, John. Inside of companies in general, the people that are leading those organizations definitely have a huge impact on how Agile will look, because ultimately Agile is representative of pretty much most working environments, right? The question becomes, and this is what, here's a question. And I'd love for those that are here online, throw this in the chat for me. What year was you exposed to Agile, right? What year was you exposed to Agile? Just what year, right? And then I'm gonna do a different thing, and just put in the chat. Just what year were you exposed to Agile, right? And then here's what I would ask you. Along with that, add a additional comment. Do you consider yourself a minority or not? Just what year was you exposed to Agile? And then yes, if you consider yourself a minority, no, if you don't, right? Throw that in the chat for me, right? And when I say a minority, I'm gonna throw women into the minority as well, right? Because women you might be a double minority or whatever. So I'm throwing women in there too, right? So just do me a favor. If you already threw it in there, just definitely throw in, whatever year, and then throw in that, yes, you're a minority, right? And the problem that I find, for a lot of us, which is kind of crazy, is that we have been exposed to Agile based on the industry that we're involved in, but then it's going to be based on other factors, like definitely your culture. Like if you are, let's just say, in India, for example, right? Heavy IT, in India, right? Heavy IT. But if you're in India, not in IT, then I would think that you might have been exposed to Scrum and Agile a little bit later. But most people that I think that have had involvement in IT is going to be exposed to Scrum a little bit sooner. And then others, when you start saying you're a minority or you're whatever, you probably wasn't heavily involved in IT. Women in general, almost any kind of minority, right? And so realistically, when you start thinking about it, I look at John. John says 2005, right? That's when I got exposed to Scrum. Truly was in 2005. I see Shane. I see, let's see, Miss Hancock. I got Sue. And unfortunately for a lot of us, especially if you're a woman and you're a minority in general, you probably got exposed to Agile a little bit later. If you are from another country, and you grew up in that, and you wasn't involved in IT in the country that you hail from, you probably got exposed to a little bit later. It just is a part of what it is, and I don't know. I really can't say what to do about that. It's just, if you think about Scrum kind of infiltrated and snuck in on most organizations. I mean, the term Scrum, right? If you really think about the term Scrum, I remember back in 2005, with my ex-wife, right? I would put Scrum Master on my email tag, and people would think that there was something wrong with me. Like they would literally just be like, what's wrong with you? Why would you even put that? What is that? But I would proudly put Scrum Master, just because, maybe it's because, like my initial spell DAM, right? And I would put DAM on everything. Like I'd have a belt buckle with DAM. I get a jacket and stitch in DAM because it was like I could curse without cursing. I mean, no, that's the letters of my name. You can't talk bad about me, right? So I would do that kind of thing. So I'm a kind of a counter kind of guy. I see Philip says 2020, and here's the deal. Like I'd ask some of you all that said you wasn't exposed to Agile, that you don't consider yourself a minority. Were you involved in IT? Were you involved in IT, or are you involved in IT, right? Because if you're not, it's likely you may not have been exposed, right? You may not have been exposed, right? Because I have so many people, especially that come to the hardship classes that we have, and they career changers, seriously. They're career changers, never been exposed. This is an opportunity. They heard somebody's making a lot of money, and they say, I'm joining, right? I'm jumping in, feet first, right? Head first, maybe, right? So it is a different way of dealing with it and thinking about it, but your exposure may have a lot to do with whether you're a minority or not, right? And what industry you're a part of, right? Especially if you had no exposure at all. I mean, if you're in IT, I don't know how you didn't have any exposure, unless the company you was working for just was really like, I don't care. So it's just a different thing. I don't know, right? So it's like, but I got another question here, and I'm gonna throw this up here as I'm sitting up here and talking. Right? What are some of the best questions to ask hiring managers during interviews to see how they matured their agile culture is? Right? Well, that's an interesting question, right? And I'll switch to that topic a little bit, and we'll come back and we'll just keep diving back and forth a little bit, right? So I'm gonna put the minority thing to bed. I think you all get the whole point of that. But again, just to make sure I stated, if you are a minority of any kind and you were not involved in IT, especially early on, it probably took longer for you to get involved in the whole agile movement. Okay, and that's okay, right? That's okay. That ain't no problem. You're here now. Celebrate. Let's make it happen. Let's make it. Let's do it. What you waiting for, right? So now let me talk about the question in terms of hiring manager, right? So I'm gonna ask everybody that's out there, listening or watching. And you've had an interview before. I actually went ahead and applied for a job for the heck of it. And they ain't called me back, but wasn't expecting to. I put it in there so last minute, it was ridiculous, and I ain't really changed my resume to make it reflect much of anything. But I just did it. So I'm gonna be serious about it, and I'm gonna actually go search for a job for real, and see what happens. But let's talk. If it's me, if I go into an interview today, what I'm gonna look for probably is I'm gonna ask myself a couple of things, right? But the number one thing I'm gonna ask myself is, what are my non-negotiables? Now, give me a second here, because this is important, right? What are my non-negotiables? Because, a great idea is, let's just say you end up in a culture that's not so mature, right? That may mean a lot more work for you. And you may want to have a bit of work-life balance. You may be taking your kids to school every day. Well, not in these days. I'm sorry. We got the COVID stuff. But you understand my point, right? Well, you might be a little bit older and have kids that are adults, and you don't have to do any of those kind of things. But those kind of things could have an impact. If I had to ask them a question, a hiring manager a question about Agile, I would ask them how long have they been exposed to Agile, and I would ask them, on a scale of 1 to 5, where do they think that Agile is on the adoption curve? Now, here's the problem with the question. When you say hiring manager, right, I am assuming that you are talking about the person that is directly involved with the team that you're going to be associated with in some kind of way, and that they are directly involved with the whole Agile movement in some kind of way, right? So I would just ask them on a scale of 1 to 5, what do they think their organization is in terms of Agile? I see John saying I would ask about their velocity and what does it take to deliver a product to the customer. I think that's an excellent question. I like that question from John. If I had to ask him a question about velocity, I probably would ask him this. How do you compare velocities across teams? Right? Now, there's different philosophies that exist in this world, right? But I come from a school of thought that you can't compare velocities across team, right? You can't normalize velocity. So I believe in that. Let me ask a question. Those in the chat, can you just tell me yes or no? Can you normalize velocity? Can you normalize velocity? If you've been around some teams, I'm not talking theory here, people. Let's not talk theory. No theory, okay? Understand my statement. I'm not talking theory. Do you understand? If you've been around some real agile teams, my question for you is simple. Around real agile teams, people on the ground that really have velocities and delivering stuff, right? I don't care if they're delivering the production. I don't care if they're delivering someplace else. But can you actually normalize velocity? If you can, just say yes. I'm not here to hate. I'm not here to hold you accountable for that. I would love for you to help me understand. I would love for you to help me understand how you do it. I'm never a believer. I'm not a hater at all. I'm never a believer that I've tried everything. Okay? I always think there's an additional experiment one can run. Okay? I believe that that's the case, right? But I see people talking. I see people making statements, right? And the statements I see right now in the chat are things like, no, because user stories vary, right? And most of y'all ain't working on the same user story again and again and again, right? Then can you really compare based on experience and things like that, right? So I definitely would ask maybe something about velocity, right? I would probably ask them if I would actually ask them. I would actually be more interested in their experience, because one thing that I've learned is that when you get people to talk about themselves, they like you more and they feel like they know you. So I would ask them, how did they get introduced to Agile, and what has their experience been like in Agile. And did they have any experience prior to this organization, or were they the ones actually leading this particular one? Because that will tell me a lot about where they stand at. Are they like one of those hardcore Agilists, right? That no story points, no nothing, right? We just get down to the bare bones. Or they're one of those people that willing to accept anything, right? Every organization is a little bit different. So again, I don't hate anyone. Let's see. We had a couple other questions that was thrown out there. You know, my man John Stone, another one out there, asked what their core team is made up of. I think that's another excellent question to ask, because when you ask what the core team is made up of, that's going to tell you something, right? You know, and if I ask that question, here's the statement, right? Let's just say you did ask the question what the core team is made up of. The question that I would ask you is, what I would want you to do is I'm less worried about you asking the question. I actually am more worried about how you receive the answer. Not that you're going to receive it in a negative way. I'm not thinking negative or positive here in terms of receiving the answer. But when you do get the answer back, what would you think about? Like, dissecting their answer becomes extremely important to whether you think they're mature or not. Because, like, if I'm looking at their team, I'm thinking to myself, like, do they have a team that can get all the way through a perfect definition of done? Or what I say, potentially shippable? Do they have all the skills on that team to be able to do that? And if they don't, then what happens when they stop along the life cycle or whatever? Do they pass it off to another team? Is those people a part of the team? So I be finding ways when I ask a question to really think about what that means on a scale of maturity for you and what you want to deal with in an organization, right? Then I see Philip I was asked in an interview what was more important, meeting a sprint goal or holding a retrospective. Man, that's a good question to ask in an interview. You know what? I'm curious as to how Philip answered that. But if somebody asked me that question, I'm gonna tell you what I would say. And don't say what I'm gonna say. Make up your own reason, man. Come up with your own reason for it. Don't just copy what I'm gonna say. I would actually say it's more important to have a retrospective. Because with a retrospective, you'll find out you're missing a sprint goal. That's the reason why I would say it. And that's exactly what I would say. Because you had a retrospective, right? I like that. Like that answer, Philip. That's an amazing answer, right? I would definitely say, I would literally say, no joke, retrospective. Why would I say retrospective? Again, a retrospective should expose that you don't have sprint goals, right? So that's an amazing answer. The problem is based on that agile maturity, they may think your answer is wrong. They may be like, no, we think the sprint goal is more important. And the problem is that it may be for them the sprint goal is more important, right? Because they may have one of those cultures where they just don't have goals and objectives, and they probably was torturing the team in some kind of way, which again don't make no sense, but it is what it is, right? But the idea though is that having that retrospective is major because one of the first things the team members get rid of is retrospective. I'll ask another question, right? When you all have retrospectives, right? Is there a favorite thing that you do in your retrospectives? If there's a favorite thing that you do that you love to do in your retrospectives, right? Type it in the chat. Just one or two words, right? What's the favorite thing you like? Man, there may be a favorite activity. There may be a favorite thing you love to do. But I absolutely love retrospectives. There's no question. I love retrospectives to death, right? And if there's a favorite thing that I like to do in retrospectives, it's truly, it's shout outs. It's the ending. It's the ending. Because by the time I get to the ending, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. But it's the ending. I like to take a breath and get off the time clock because I feel like I got to do a show and I got to be up there making sure everybody's good. But that's my favorite thing. But beyond just the shout outs, I would say probably my favorite thing to do is to create affinity groups and get action items around categories, root causes, right? That would be affinitize things and get action items around those things that have been affinitized, right? So that's what that's probably my favorite thing to do inside of retrospectives is find ways to group things so we can, it's almost like I'm trying to roll up data while in the retrospective. And I like to roll up data because we can't get everything done. Oh, and another thing I like to do is vote. Had a team vote. Understand that I'm making a distinction. Had a team vote. That's a very, very important thing, right? So I love having a team vote, right? I see John saying, pace the room, call out the individual team members for doing a good job, right? Yeah, shout outs. That's what I do in shout outs, John. John been in one of my retrospectives before. I don't know. I don't even think John been in one of my retrospectives before. John was just being a boss. That's what he was being back in the day. And so, I just say, yes, boss. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll go do exactly what you're telling me to do, boss. But yeah, but I would say it would literally be the ending, the shout outs. Cause I like people to give other people accolades. I like people to say what they've been grateful about or something good that happened. I really like that part of a retrospective because that gives you an opportunity to be human, man. I mean, and for me, it really, really is super important, for people to be kind of human, right? And them having an opportunity to be human is really what I'm trying to get at, right? It gives me, sometimes, you get a piece of data, you get a little piece of a nugget that you can kind of roll with and go have conversations about, right? Go have conversations about so and then you can, just be just kind of good, right? And so I love that ending, and I said earlier I love the ending because it's the ending, but no, I love the ending because it's about, just kind of loving on people. I don't want to say it that way. Like, I saw this video today, basic dude stuff, all that loving on stuff. I don't know, but I want you to love on your people is what I want you to do. I do. I really do want you to love on your people. And I want you to love on your people all the time, right? Like have different kinds of retrospectives, make it interesting for people, right? So that's really, really, really super duper dope and super duper important. So I'll say it one more time. I know I'm just up here talking and rambling on, right? But I always come here every other week and make sure we spend an hour, give people an opportunity to ask questions if they want to. If you have a question that you would like to ask, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in the on LinkedIn, and I'm going to throw into YouTube the actual link for the chat, so and then you can join me if you do have a question. Sometimes people come on and they want to talk about a success that they've had, and we just talk through that because sometimes that's really, really inspiring for people. I just had one of my someone who I've obviously worked with, likely was a part of the actual what do you call it, the hardship classes. That said, literally she started her first day of work today. I'm so excited for her. I'm so excited for her, right? And it's like she's starting work today, so congratulations. I'm not gonna call your name out because you may not want everybody to know that you got a new job. You may be hiding from somebody like the government, I don't know. But the point is, she started a new job as a business analyst, and it's helping the team adopt Agile business practices. And it's thanking me for her help, but truth is, hey man, it takes your motivation and your work and your effort to go out there to make it happen for yourself. And I want you to pat yourself on the back way more than me. I appreciate it. I love people giving me good news about them finding opportunities. And it probably, two, 3 times a week I get an email about people doing something great and amazing. And when people find jobs, it's a major plus. Last 2 weeks ago, we had my boy John Signo on, and with his brand and land stuff, helping people find jobs and really land them based on how he approaches it. So loving people finding jobs, loving people doing what they love to do, especially if this is a career change for them. I mean, truth is, I'm a career changer, right? I kind of left the world of social work because I got a psychology degree, and I kind of went into IT, as a programmer, and boom, it just really, 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 really was amazing. Oh, I see Latoya here. Latoya, congratulations! You have an interview for Instrument Reference Data Business Analyst tomorrow. Congratulations on that. Make sure you channel me. You got to do well, right? You got to do well. So that's a plus. So, I love to let me know how it goes. I like to hear people getting their opportunities, at least getting an opportunity to have an opportunity. Sometimes, many of us, we don't get the interview in the first place, right? So just to be able to get an interview, you're doing something right. Now you got to do is just pour into those people, love on those people, ask them some good questions so they can love on you back, and then just make sure you close that opportunity. So congratulations on that coming up for you. I think that's major. Nothing but goodness. I kind of love it. I would even want to be any place else. I like seeing people get good stuff happening to them, right? So that being said, I kind of threw out the eCam for anybody to show up if they want to. You don't have to because I'm kind of good to go with the conversation as is. So that being said, I do want to talk a little bit more about that interviewing thing. Well, at least about your resume, okay? I will tell you that when I applied for the job that I applied for, my resume wasn't ready. My resume was not ready, people. Now, I had not spent any time on my resume in 10 years, okay? I've been running Bearded Eagle, or an independent consultant for that long. And a lot of times when I was an independent consultant, the way I got a job is I was referred in some way, shape, form, or fashion. I got on a call with one of the guys who, and John Heatley will remember this, Mark Thias. you know, we got on a call with Mr. Richard Latcher. I think his last name. I may have not got it right. And, you know, I had his phone number. I called him. He was retired and golfing, you know, but I remember Richard pouring into me at Capital One. I clearly remember him pouring into me at Capital One, you know, and I got the job at Capital One because my resume was super dope. I made sure it was as good as it could be when I left State Farm and went to Capital One. But then when I left Capital One and went to USA, it was referral. I mean, literally, Richard told John and Cheryl, hey, think about this guy right here. And they called me, and we had an interview in the morning. And that afternoon, they called me back and said, hey, we want you to come on. And 2 weeks later, I was actually in San Antonio at that point. And it was complete referral, right? And when I left USA, ultimately, I went up to Chicago. It was another referral, right? And then I got fired. I literally got fired. I got fired. It was horrible. And then I got referred to another opportunity, and that turned out to be Johnson & Johnson. And then, you know, some folks at USA called me and said, come on back. Come on back. And so, so a lot of times for me, those hops have been based on the work that I've done. And so when you get that first opportunity, people, forget the resume. Let's talk about when you get that first opportunity. When you get that first opportunity, that's your opportunity to create your next opportunity. Let me repeat that. When you get your first opportunity, that is your opportunity to create the next opportunity. That is your opportunity to show everybody what you can do, right? John can confirm this, right? When I went to USA, all I did was just did some Scrum. That's it. I put up walls. I just ran around and I helped my teams deliver. And, within a couple months, they got rid of a bunch of coaches that was talking. John, if that's the truth, just write truth. If you're still there, just write truth in the chat for me, right? They got rid of a bunch of other coaches. I mean, they got a whole lot of coaches they got rid of and only left a few of us, right? Because, a lot of people go into these Agile gigs, man, and they try to do stuff that doesn't make sense. Like, I think USA was formed or created or whatever in 1922 or something like that. How am I going to walk into a company and tell a company that's been around since 1922 that you're doing everything wrong? How could I really tell a company that you're doing everything wrong, right? I mean, I can't, obviously you did something to be a Fortune 200, Fortune 100 company. And whatever it is you did, it could have been crook and criminal stuff. I don't know. But you did something right to get in the position that you're in as a Fortune 100 company, right? I say 100, right? 100 company. And so it's one of those things where when you start to really think about it, I don't go into companies and tell them everything that they do is wrong. I don't think you should either. Okay? Because the one thing is, and I like the fact that John said truth right there, right? Because I ain't got no reason to lie to you, right? Like some of the stuff I be saying sound like amazing, but it is amazing, right? It is amazing. When I sit back and look at it, it's amazing. But I don't think it's amazing because it's just stuff that happens to me. But the one thing I don't do is I don't go into companies and put down the people that's there. I just don't. I don't go into places and put down the people that are there. I do everything to build people up. I do everything to bring people forward from the place where they're at. So if you're at an organization and you go in fresh, right? The one thing you don't know is the company. Let me repeat that. You're inside of an organization. You walk into the organization. You're an employee, contractor, I don't care what they call you. Volunteer, it doesn't matter. Usually the one thing that you don't know is the company. And you need people in the company to help you navigate the politics of the company. Because every organization has, at the minimum, politics. At the minimum, politics. Everybody knows in this room, in order to get things done inside of most organizations, it's about having relationships. It's about having relationships, right? So how are you going to build any kind of relationship with anybody in any organization if you're telling them all the time that they're wrong? Because everything that they did is not wrong. It just isn't. So you should find a way to be respectful of what they're doing, what they have done so far. It's super important. It's super important for you to build those right relationships so you can navigate. Because trust me, if you're involved in Agile at all of us that have any involvement with Agile, the one thing that you're going to do is have to deal with an impediment. Now, if you've had to deal with an impediment, regardless of what your role is in the Agile space, give me one of those fire emojis, give me a thumbs up or something like that, because you know it's true, regardless of what role that you've played. You could be some executive inside of an organization for all I care. If you're involved in the Agile landscape whatsoever, Scrum, XP, Kanban, hybrid, because everybody does hybrid. Just call it all hybrid. Waterfall, Waterfall, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter to me, right? At the end of the day, the vast majority of us are doing a hybrid of some kind. And in that hybrid, you have likely had to deal with one thing, impediments. And how do you really get through impediments the quickest? Relationships. So when you start thinking about you're going to do all this great stuff and you want to be involved with Agile and everything else, you know what you should do? Work toward building your relationships. The thing is that I don't care if somebody don't know Scrum, because my philosophy is I can teach you Scrum in 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, I can teach you Scrum, right? I use Scrum for my workout routine. I use Scrum sometimes to eat, okay? That's a little stupid, but I have. To build cabinets, to do the things that I want to do, right? I use Scrum for all kinds of stuff. I just really, really do. Now, does that mean that I can't explain Scrum in the most simplistic of ways? I'm still up here working inside of organizations, and we're not using no words related to Scrum. Like nothing, none of the words. Because the concepts are still true. Right? I had to go pick up I have a 17-year-old up in Chicago, and she just came back from Morocco, so I had to fly up there to go get her because her mother was out of town, right? And I had to go meet her at the airport and everything else, and I was super delayed and everything at the airport. But one thing I saw that was unique? People having daily stand-ups. Like I saw the TSA have a daily stand-up. Stand up in a circle and talk about, what has happened and what's going to happen, right? That's what we call a daily scrum, right? I was walking around in, I think it was Home Depot this morning. And you know what I saw? A daily stand-up. Yeah, they may not call it exactly that, but again, people around in a circle standing up, talking about what has happened, what's going to happen, right? Literally, it was mostly the manager for talking. It is what it is. It might have been definitely different. But there's elements of this stuff everywhere. So when you walk into an organization, most of the people that are there are just as agile as you. Like I have found that people who work way back in the mainframe world, if you're involved in IT, you understand what I mean by mainframe. So just think old school technology. They're more agile than anybody else because they got to adjust to all y'all new schoolers' changes way more often and figure out ways to have to do that within an old clunky system, right? So I find those guys to be majorly agile, right? And so you got to find the right space, but it takes you building relationships with people. And so if you go into an organization, I think you need to show and prove. The way you're going to build where you're going, okay, here's the way I want to, this is how I want you to think. Everybody that you come into contact with in that organization is a potential referral for you. Everybody. Every single person that you interact with inside of whatever organization is a referral for a future job for you. So now, since they're a referral for a future job for you, I want you to take time to build the most positive, best relationship that you can with every single person. It does mean you're going to have to deliver. It does mean you're going to have to be involved in a lot of stuff. It does mean you got to volunteer and not always be voluntold. It means a lot of different things. It means you got to acknowledge that you're wrong about some things. It means that even when other people are wrong, that you don't treat them like they're a plague, right? It does mean being transparent, giving people an opportunity to inspect and adapt. All these things are super important. But for me, walking into an organization is me building my resume. Not just my paper resume or the thing I'm going to put on LinkedIn or if I'm going to have that I'm going to physically send somebody a PDF or Word document. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your resume with people, right? There's several people that have come on here. John Healy being one of the ones that I've seen. I have a relationship with him. John needs something. John called me. It is what it is, right? It's no big deal. But I have a long-standing relationship with him, right? And then we catch up. It's like no time has passed, right? I think about other people. And it doesn't. I can throw any names out there: the Larrys, the Steves, the Toms, all these folks. If they come to me, and holler at me about something, I got them. Because we went through, we kind of went through a battle together. We went through a war together. We built a relationship. And that relationship goes beyond just that opportunity. And so when you got that interview, I get it. But when you get past that interview, you're not done. You're actually building for your next opportunity. Everybody that you come across is a potential reference. Understand that. This is serious, right? I got a few people that won't recommend me. Yeah, that's true. I'm not saying that you're gonna have the best relationship with everybody. I certainly don't. I certainly wouldn't even expect to. I don't have the best relationship with everybody, in my family. I'm actually pretty much a star though, because I was the firstborn, like on both sides of the family. Firstborn grandchild. So it's special for me, right? But like I said, it's super important for you to really think to yourself, when you get that opportunity, you get past the interview, and I know a lot of you all are trying to get past the interview, but I know people, as soon as they get past that interview, it's like they take a breath and they calm down. No. I mean, being a member of the Omega Psi Fraternity Incorporated, right? That means that I'm always in situations. That means that as soon as we were done pledging or whatever, we just began a journey. So just think of the interview and all the other stuff as your pledge period, as your walk in the door, as your rough part to get there. But realistically, you haven't really started the journey until you get in the door. Because the true journey starts when you get in the door. That's the true journey. The true journey is when you get in the door. That's when you start building a name for yourself. And I need you to build a name for yourself. Well, let me put it differently. And I'm going to leave it on this note. A lot of you all have some association with me that are on this thing right now. I told a lot of you all, you can't embarrass me on the street, right? I told a lot of y'all, you cannot embarrass me on the street, right? You cannot embarrass me on the street, which means that you need to impress and show and prove that you can do what needs to be done. and I know you can because I train many of you or I've worked with you in some kind of way, and I know you can do it, right? And so make sure you don't embarrass me. Make sure when you get that opportunity, you take that opportunity and you run full steam ahead with that opportunity. I don't care how small it is. I don't care how big it is, right? You make it so them people never want you to leave. You make it so them people love you when that opportunity is over there, like trying to find another something for you to do. Right. I remember when it was time for my opportunity to be done at USA back in the day. Right. I remember John coming to me and saying, "Hey, we can find this for you to do, or find that for you to do, or find this for you to do, or find that." Really trying to find a place else for me to go inside the organization. When I left Capital One, it was the same way. Right. When I left State Farm, it was the same way. So my point to you is, I always make sure I leave with people wanting way more of me, with people thinking I can give way more. Because for me, day one is the start of the true interview. For me to get referrals in the future, so then I'm not having to keep pulling my resume out. So, look, y'all, on that note, we spent some time here. This has been great. This has been wonderful. We can always do this kind of thing. I will say to you all, I'm starting a new segment on here. I had someone reach out to me, last time we did it. And it was like, "Hey, I'm in India. When you do this show, I can't watch it because it's not timed right for me." I said, "Okay, no problem. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and create a In the Loop segment where if you got a question, just create a video on your iPhone, on your Android, whatever device you kind of have, and just you could create it on your computer and just throw it in my Dropbox. I have a link for that, and the reason why I want you to throw it in my Dropbox is because I want to be able to take it and I want to be able to go ahead and answer your question live here just in case. That way we give everybody access. So over the next few weeks, we'll run that experiment. And if nobody uses it, nobody does it, then obviously it wasn't that important. It's just an experiment that I'm doing, people. So just know that In the Loop segment is coming. We're starting it. If you got a question, throw it in the video. But here's the deal. 2 weeks from now, we do this again. 2 weeks from now, we do this again. And that'd be obviously 14 days. So, yeah, I'm assuming that's around August 25th, right? Because this is the 11th. So I'm going to say to you, hey, y'all, I have enjoyed it. I've enjoyed everyone that's here. Oh, man, look at this. Julian. I see my friend Julian on there. What's up, man? How you doing, man? Long time no see. Next time I come to Chicago, we should break bread, okay? But on that note, hey, Julian, you never played the game with us like that. Anyway, we got a little Dungeons and Dragons game that we used to play back in the day when I was a shorty. And I still got my characters from the game. And so we got to have a big old battle royale so we can kill all the characters off. On that note, y'all, hey, I appreciate y'all showing up to hear me just banter for no apparent reason. But I love it. Hopefully you get some value out of things like this. And we'll keep doing it. We'll keep doing it every other week. If I feel like we have a lot of people pressing and people have a lot of questions, then I'll move this to every week. I have no problem with that. So look, we'll cross paths, y'all. I actually love all y'all. I appreciate all y'all. I look forward to seeing y'all continually on the Agile journey. And make sure you have any questions for me, send them out. You can always join the show. Other than that, people, I think it's my time. Sorry for starting 5 minutes late, because I really did start late. I normally don't start late at all. But me and my father, we was over there cutting countertops. We literally cutting, I ain't even lying, y'all. Really cutting countertops. Like, no joke. We putting countertops on the dang on cabinets. All right, y'all. That being said, it's been a pleasure. I will see y'all next time. Peace. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe until next time. Look, watch out for that COVID stuff too, okay? I want to see you healthy and alive, all right? All right, y'all. Have a good one. Thank you.